Imagine you found $2,000. What would be the first thing you would buy? Tools? Okay. 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 The boys out here. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? If you want to, it's your money, bro. He said, "I'm gonna stash it. That ain't going nowhere." Good question. Good question. Anything else? Anything else? What would you do with $2,000 if you found? Okay, my boy's investing. We're saving. We're spending on the crib. What would y'all do with $2,000? It was just fine. Okay. Shopping on what though? Shopping on what? Are you going to like the expensive stores? Like what would you be shopping? I love to ask that question because it shows us a bit of how we're already budgeting. So today I'm gonna show you the agenda in a little bit, but this is how we budget in a way, right? Like we already see what we're doing with our money. We see it in our head. We're like, I can do this, right? I can stash it. I can invest. I can buy stuff, right? Like this is already the act of it, right? And so, but today, of course, hello everybody. My name is Benjamin Concepcion. For those of you who do know me, you know I'm always advocating about money, making sure that we move correctly in the right way. But basically, a bit about me. I'm first generation American, college grad. I supported my parents in the process of getting rid of $25,000 worth of debt. But really what got me started in that whole process, I remember when I was an EMT, I was working in high school as an EMT. And one of my colleagues, one of my partners are like, "Oh, Ben, you don't budget? What do you do with your money?" I was like, "What is budget? You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about, right? Like, this is not something that I've been known to. I never seen my parents do this. What do you mean, what's a budget? And she showed me real quick in like a notepad. Money comes in, you got to figure out where you're going to put it. I'm like, well, I spend it. Like I do what I do, right? Like I'm here to make my bread and live the life I want to live, right? But she really opened my eyes. And I'm like, she was working in the banking industry for a long time. She was like, "No, Ben, you have to budget. Like how? Because how else do you know where your money's going?" And I was shook. I was like, "Nah, this is wild." Okay. So then I started trying it. And I started in a little piece of paper she showed me, and I just kind of copied what she did. And I took it home and studied it on my own. I'm like, okay, well, this is what this is. And then I found out there's a whole world of financial empowerment, financial literacy, about budgeting, all this stuff. It really kind of opened my eyes to this whole new thing that is a normal thing to do. And that led to now learning about getting rid of debt, how to invest, like all that game comes in. And that led now from supporting my parents in the process of getting rid of debt to then buying a multifamily home and managing property and all that good stuff and investments. The backpack I was carrying with my parents, and I kind of let it fall a bit, and they're now self-sustainable, and I could just do my thing, right, and build for me. Now I believe we all learn in community. I want this to feel like a dinner table. There's no wrong questions. There's no wrong answers. We're here to feed off each other because this information is always evolving, right? Like we were just talking a bit about debt consolidation. I'm like, yo, honestly, I don't know too much about that, but listen, I know this. And that's how we build this conversation, because we constantly grow this information, because there's like learning tips and tricks with our money to then let it grow and expand, right? And that's what really empowers us. And through stories and really our experiences is really where we have power. And this whole presentation is called Identities of Power, because what we're going to do is we're going to look at who we are ourselves and what makes us unique, and now into the scope of this financial empowerment, financial literacy stuff. So now this is the agenda real quick, kind of the breakdown of the ideas that we're going to be talking about. So we're looking at budgeting, what it is and what it isn't, because people be getting it twisted, man. It's crazy. Financial traps to avoid. We're going to identify the stuff in our environment and really digest it. We're going to look at the equation to stay wealthy, looking at it at a really high level. And then our identities and our power, as I mentioned earlier, and we're going to leave kind of feeling really confident in who we are and how we've been prepared to do this already. Okay. So I got my boy Donkey here, Shrek. We're going to play a quick activity. And really the point of this activity is for us to really see how critical budgeting really is. And so this activity, what we're going to do is I'm going to have 6 volunteers. If y'all don't mind, who wants to be a volunteer? We're going to play a quick game. 1, 2, 3. All right. Oh man, this is a small space. We're going to make it work. I know it's a little tight. Listen, so I put my boy Donkey here because we're about to play. I don't know if y'all play Pin the Donkey. We're going to manipulate this game to really relate it to budgeting, right? So those with the stickies, you are the pinners, right? And your objective is to simply put your sticky with your color where it goes. Your partner, the people without the sticky, are your assistants, right? The assistant, you are not able to touch them. You're only there to guide them. So red team, you're fully blindfolded. You and the assistant are blindfolded. Good luck, right? The yellow team, where's the yellow? The yellow team, you are blindfolded. The pinner is blindfolded. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right the boom. There you go. You get it. All right. Give each other. Y'all gonna take your blindfolds off. You give each other a round of applause. Yeah, that was awesome. And we can take a seat again. I can take the blindfolds. Y'all don't get hurt walking back. Right. So with this activity, green team had the easiest time, right? Because green team now, the assistant were your budgets, right? You're playing with your money, right? We talked about $2,000. Well, I'm gonna do this, that. The pinner, you actually have the dollars with you. You were living your life, right? You were moving on. Your assistant is telling you what you're thinking, what you want to do with your money, but then life happens and this is what you're actually doing, right? And now the certain teams are blindfolded, right? Because there's different stages of people's budgeting style, right? And these are kind of the quick comments that we might have heard in our environments, right? So I don't like to even look at my account. I'm scared of that. I don't even open that. I'm overspending. I know that for a fact. That's red team. We blind, baby. We don't know what's happening, right? Our assistants, they're home. We think we have a plan, but they don't know what's happening. Myself as a pinner, I'm living through life, but I'm just kind of blowing my money. That's where I was, right? And then this sticky that was on the wall was really our financial goal, right? This is where we want to reach. This is where we want to go, right? So now when we look at these three perspectives, we're looking at the hardest one, where it's like we're both blind, the assistant and the budget and what I'm actually doing with my money. We ain't know what's happening. We have the yellow team. Then now we're looking at, the budget's in my head. I was that person too, right? Oh yeah, of course that budget, it's in my head, right? Where it's like now what you're actually doing is different than what you have planned, right? What you have planned can see is telling you, oh, move left, move right. But what you're actually doing is blinded. You're not really sure, right? Because you're not aligned. It's not accurate. And then green team is when you're fully aligned. Now you're going with what you're planning. My account is under my control, right? And now I'm looking at, okay, my plan, and I'm working my plan, and it's accurate. And I'm constantly kind of refining that process, right? Now, what we're going to talk about, those that feel like red, today you're going to take a mad information. This is going to be gold. Those that feel like yellow, you're about to learn some things. Those that feel like green, you'll be like, okay, I see what I'm doing. Maybe you might pick up a few things. But this is only going to be half of the presentation about budgeting, and then we're going to go into bigger topics. So basically, this is an Excel sheet. This is a budgeting sheet. This is something I personally use. When we're walking through the budget, there's only 3 really major steps to this. We're looking at our fixed expenses, which really our fixed expenses are showing us our bills, the things that we're spending money on a regular basis. And this number here is really your lifestyle money, right? So to be Ben's lifestyle in this example, to be my lifestyle, it costs $17.70 every month to live the way I live, right? If this was me, if this was my situation, right? But this number gives you clarity on how much it costs to live your life, right? So now we go into breaking down this monthly expenses. Let's say I get paid weekly. You divide it by 4, right? Because there's 4 weeks in a month. And now we know that to get to this number, it takes $443 to get there, right? Every week. And now let's say I get paid, my income is $500 a week or whatever, right? I get paid $500 a week. I think I'm balling $500 a week, right? If I'm fully blind, I think I got $500 to blow, cap, right? You actually should take some money away from that and really get humbled real quick and know how much spending money you have until your next paycheck, right? And people who do not do this get into this perpetual cycle of being in debt, having to rely on your credit card. Like, it's scary. But now knowing these numbers, because now let's say at the end of the month, you're getting paid $500 a week, and now you're blowing it every week, but you never took money out or put it away for your monthly expenses. Now when the first of the month or the end of the month comes in, you're scrambling for these dollars. It's like, oh, where am I going? It's like, it feels like you're not making progress. Like, I'm broke forever, But it could just be that you might not even have a plan or managing your money, right? But now when you get to your spending money, right, this is your number. This is how much you can afford every week, right? So I have $67 in this budget specifically that I can go and spend until the next one, until the next paycheck, right? And that could accumulate for the month, and you can divide that up however you like. But to get to these numbers, right, gas is something that's changing. It's not the same amount every month, right? But these are things that as you track yourself, you can start tracking your spending, right? You can see, okay, my money's going here, and certain numbers start popping up. You're like, oh, habitually, I do this, right? Oh, I support my parent every month. If I do this, okay, then why don't I just put a certain amount every month, right? If I have a child, I put a certain amount every month. If we know this is going to be happening, this is a recurring expense, instead of being blind to it, facing it and having it clear cut and designed for yourself, right? So now with budgeting, you can go into 2 ways. You can be reflective, where it's like you're tracking your spending, or you can be proactive, right? Where it's like now you're planning ahead. You're now looking into the future. Okay, I make this much, I'm going to spend it here. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to control your money and kind of control all the variables and all the things that changes. This is very talk heavy, numbers heavy, but this is something that we practice and we can get better and better at. But I'm just showing you because a lot of people talk about budgeting, but they don't actually show you what a budget can look like. But this is something to look at. Now, another thing I wanted to highlight is that monthly savings is a bill. You decide that for yourself, right? That's a habit thing. And also guilt-free spending. I put question marks here because as you track your spending, you can figure out when you get that itch of like, yo, I'm trying to flex. We all get that. And if I don't satisfy that itch, I'm bugging. I'm going to go blow it like crazy, right? Same thing as like cheat day when you're working out. You got to make that normal, right? And you really understand that for yourself, because that's the process of really being honest with yourself. Because this budgeting, yeah, it's numbers, but it's really going to show you, yo, am I really doing what I say I'm doing and planning what I'm planning? And if not, why? Right? And ask yourself those questions, kind of figure out what's the disalignment, right? So you can make sure that you're like green team and you say what you're going to do and you're planning and you're doing that because you want to reach your goals. We ain't trying to be Mr. Krabs. This is not what budgeting is about. Some people's reactions to budgeting is like, oh, I'm trying to save as much as possible. I'm not trying to spend it. Nah, because Mr. Krabs got a ton of money, but he don't spend it on nothing. He don't give nobody nothing. He don't be flexing. Like, what's the point of even having all this money for? Right? Because money's supposed to be moving. Money is supposed to be always changing and changing hands, right? So this is kind of looking at what budgeting is and what it isn't in a clear, flat way. So it isn't a hoarding plan. You don't want to save until eternity. It's a spending plan, right? Where it's like now you're looking at, okay, well, what permission am I going to give myself to spend on X, Y, and Z? If I know I'm going to spend on a vacation or on the fancy clothes, that's permission I give myself. And this budgeting really lets you kind of figure out and afford that for yourself. Has anybody heard of a spending plan before? Right? Okay. And that's part of this process, right? It's kind of figuring out, okay, give yourself permission to do what you want to be doing. And that's being critically honest with all this stuff, right? So always needing more money, that's greed, right? And what budget doesn't do that. It really gets you to know how much is needed. It lets you know how much is enough, right? If I want to buy a crib, everybody's, I want to buy a crib. I need to make as much money as possible for that. If you don't, okay, how much do you need to buy a crib? That's a deeper question, right? And when you got that number, you got that dollar amount, now that empowers you to know, oh, I only need 6 months of this, or I need, to save for a year. It becomes more crystal clear. Oh, I want to go on a vacation. I want to go to Bali or whatever. Okay, how much is it going to cost you? How much is the flight? How much the Airbnb, right? It's like you make this plan with numbers and it becomes more and more clear and become more crystallized and more of a reality. And it's less of a thing that we have like in the cloud and it's in the air, something now that we own, that we can see. Okay. It's a chore. Cap is automated, right? So if we go back to the budget, so here, oh my God, I used to do this every week when I got paid just because I wanted to be humbled. But if we assume like, oh man, I got to be doing this on a regular basis, it's a bother, it's a burden. But you want to make this automatic, right? This could be an account that you can set up in your bank account that automatically you put money into, and that's where all your bills come out. And it's like something you just kind of put away and you don't got to worry about, right? You're saving, it could be an account that you know automatically. And it's just the system, right? The investments here, there's no investments, right? Like you figure out your system and your way of doing it, that's best for you. And so it becomes kind of automated. This thing, instead of having to like think about it all the time, it's just there for you. And you could always, it's something that you're constantly doing. The budget's in my head, as we saw with Yellow Team, right? It was like you see people that are disconnected. It's not in your head. It's something actionable. It's something you're practicing. It's something you're doing. It's not this planning, this developing is something that you're regularly doing. And of course, it's not stressful. It gives you peace, right? When you give yourself that permission, yo, I'm going to flex every month on this. Or I'm going to, fund my business every month on this, right? Because a lot of people think that, I'm just spending money on things, but you could also spend money on yourself. Every month I'm going to spend on buying a different course or trying a new gym or a different workout, or I want to get fit, right? Like you can really put money into those objectives or those goals. Anything surprising, anything that you're like, what the heck? I didn't think of it that way here.
I do have a question.
Please.
Do you think it should, if I was going down,
please.
Would you think it would be better for actionable to be before automated? If you actionably show X amount of time that this plan works, then you can automate it, and then you can be at peace. That's what I was thinking.
No, of course. I see. So you saw it as a sequence. I didn't even think of it as a sequence, but that's good, right? Yeah, but you're totally right. It could, but this wasn't set up to be a sequence. But you're right? When you create that habit. And now you know how it works and how you plan. Yeah, now you then automate it. Yeah, so you're totally right? At first you start at becoming as something that you practice, you chisel to a point where it's like you already know what's up. Yeah.
I had automatic savings. I was like, nah, I need that.
Yeah, and that happens. That totally happens, right? And that's also part of that process of of really because now you're now also reflecting on what's happening, right? Because when you dig into your savings, you're like, oh, I'm saving too much and I'm capping, right? Like I'm not being honest with myself. So let me bring that down, and now the money I need it for X, Y, and Z, right? And that's part of like working your plan and developing it and getting more and more clear with it. I quickly showed you something practical, and that the whole point of that practicality is for y'all to really take it and run with it. And of course, if y'all want, at the end of the session, y'all can add me on LinkedIn and send me your email, and I can send you that Excel sheet so you can start developing on your own. That's something you can work with and develop. But now we're gonna talk about some big ideas that now will like level up. Because now that was a lot of math, a lot of numbers, but now we're gonna look at kind of our environment and really dissect this stuff a little deeper. The financial traps to avoid, right? And these things are traps because once we kind of see these things, we don't have to step into them, right? Like we can really avoid them. And this is something crucial in our surroundings. But first, I wanna walk y'all through kind of these ideas that we probably have heard, and then kind of relate it to our environment. We can all kind of see from our own perspectives. But in short, right, we look at lifestyle creep. This is lifestyle inflation. And basically, in short, that's kind of our luxuries becoming our necessities, right? So I know me and my family went on a restaurant, and it was like a big deal whenever we went to restaurants, right? But now, you know, when I start making more money, I'm like, nah, every weekend, baby, I'm going to so-and-so, right? And so that's kind of that lifestyle creep, right? Like it's not a necessity. It's a luxury that became something that now you do on a regular basis because you can't afford it, right? But that's lifestyle creep, right? Because of course you can afford something probably more affordable, but you get into a place just because you make more money, you're going to spend more money, right? The rat race, and that's living paycheck to paycheck, an exhausting weekly routine of trading your time for money your entire working life, right? And this is very common, right? And this is something that there's a ton of books about it. There's tons of ideas, but it's kind of that cycle of really, oh man, I'm only paying for my bills, right? Like I'm only trying to handle, I'm doing everything I can just to kind of get by, right? And that's survival mode, right? And now we can look at the golden handcuffs. That's when your employer gives incentives to keep employees, right? So either you have a vetted retirement plan where you got to be working there for a year or two to tap into their retirement. You know, for you to get access to this higher salary or whatever, you got to sign a contract for a year or two. There's different mechanisms for that, but those are called the golden handcuffs because you're really now committing yourself to one place and staying there, even with you happy or you're not. With the rat race, all I do is work and pay my bills, right? It's like kind of this perpetual cycle of survival. Like, yo, I'm just trying to get by. And now the golden handcuffs is, yo, I hate my job, but the money's good. That was me recently. I was in the corporate world and I was making good money. And it was to the point where I was like, yo, like I hate this, but this money's so good. But it was me literally like, yo, I don't want to be here, but this money's so good, right? Like kind of being in those handcuffs because of that paycheck. But there's like, once you know this information, once you know about budgeting, about financial literacy, you can really tap in and figure out, okay, how much money do I actually need? And how much money do I want? Instead of like I always need more, right? And kind of set yourself up in a place where now you can pursue work that you enjoy instead of work that is just here to pay the bills. And that's the thing about golden handcuffs, right? It's kind of like by choice. We like slowly slip them on and we stay there, right? And some people, because they might not have ever even recognized what a golden handcuff is, they just keep it moving. And now all these things, let's say all these things are now combined, right? Lifestyle creep kicks in. You're making good money, but now you're spending more, right? You're in a rat race. Yo, I'm paying my bills. I'm making more money, but I'm just getting by and paying my bills. And now the golden handcuffs on a job I hate, but because this money's good or whatever, it's keeping you there. Yo, all these things, man, like a concoction of just having a miserable life, right? And this is where the game now shifts, right? This is why this information becomes like revolutionary, because now, okay, let's say we know how to budget. Now we know how to manage our money. I could be making 50 grand. I could be making 100 grand. I could be making 200 grand and still fall into these traps, right? Because how many people buy, especially in America where consumerism is crazy, how many people buy things that they don't need or they don't afford, right? And there's music about it. There's all types of stuff about it. But now this is something that once we know what this is and we can identify either in our own experience or in our environments, now we can tap into now liberating ourselves and feeling powerful about the decisions we're making with our money. When you get into a space where the work you're doing is meaningful and powerful to you and gives you energy, now that's a different perspective. That's a different game. Now money's not the thing that we're constantly changing. Now living life is what we're constantly pursuing, right? And like I said, there's levels to this, but this is not stepping into these traps, like staying out of survival mode. Once your salary gets to a certain state, your happiness doesn't change. And I think the study was if you make like 75K or more a year, everything was the same. It's just now elevated. Everything you're doing is just elevated. Restaurants, just more expensive food. Nice cars is more nicer cars, right? Like vacation is just bigger vacations, but it's the lifestyle. You create that meaning for yourself, right? This is a big idea, and now let's zoom it out. Let's look at it in a big way of things. So now let's look at how we can sustain our financial freedom and our wealth, right? This is a big equation, big high level looking at things. This is super simplified, but I want to make sure that y'all can look at it in a sense that sticks with you. So really at the end of the day, we want to get the bag, right? So that's either making money, right? Through jobs, through our own business, whatever way that we have an income. Now we transition that to use our income to buy assets, right? And assets can fall into things like real estate, buying or owning a business, or investing your money in the market, stuff like that. And then we step into financial liberation, where really now these assets that we bought are now paying for our lifestyle, right? We saw our number of how much it costs to live Ben's lifestyle or whatever that budget was. When your assets now start making that money for you, now you're kind of in this financial liberation stage, right? And people call it different things. There's like financial retire early. There's all different things, but it's also kind of being more hands-free with your money. And this is kind of looking at the long range, the long way of things, right? But this is kind of like the big end goal, but this is the big kind of the high level equation of how to work with your money, right? Investing is kind of like looking at this long-term game where you put your money in. That's why saving is kind of like the prerequisite to investing, right? Because when you save, that money is supposed to not be taken away for regular expenses. And when you invest, it's kind of like you put money in an oven that it slowly cooks and it makes you more with time, right? But now we're looking at this high-level equation. We're always kind of with the understanding when we can look at our money with this perspective, we can always look at the avenue of getting out of living a lifestyle that now we start talking in a coded language in our environments, right? Because now when we're looking at a lot of people, let's say they fall into the traps that we just looked at, they use their money to buy a lifestyle, right? We talked about terms like hood rich, right? Where like people who have a ton of cars, right? Or it can be flashy, but they don't have no assets. They don't got no cribs. They don't have no other ways to make money other than whatever they're producing at the time, right? But with this equation, now okay, the money I'm making, I'm always focused on, okay, I'm either investing more or making more to then keep growing and growing to buy more assets that'll slowly get to the point where now all my expenses are being paid to live my lifestyle through these avenues, right? And I think J. Cole said it in one of his songs when he was dissing, oh my God, I forgot who it was. And he was like, all these little son, whatever rappers, yeah. So he was spitting bars about this, right? Where it's like, yes, of course, you're doing constants, you're making your bag there, but you gotta have avenues and ways because you're not gonna be young and extravagant or talented forever, right? Like your audience is gonna dry up because that generation is gonna move on. But now with the money you make, you put it into assets and it kind of freezes it for you, and it's always gonna be making money regardless what's happening. Right? Because you can be trading your time, but then we're going to get old, right? And so we ain't going to be doing what we're going to be doing on a regular basis. But this freezes it to then slowly let it grow more and more. It's like a machine. You put your money into a machine to be making you more money, right? That's why people are like, oh, invest. People talk about it, but they don't really kind of break it down in a way that's simple to understand, right? So let me go to the first question, right? In terms of, okay, some pointers. So the same way that we were like in our budget, we had like a monthly savings or whatever, you can set up a monthly investing. Right? So you decide how many dollars you want to be doing. So the same way that, because savings is something that you save for a goal, right? You don't save forever. Whether you're saving for an emergency fund, you figure out how much that number is. And once you get to the number, the emergency fund is set. And now whatever you were saving every month, now you put it towards whatever else you want, right? And now investing can be multiple things. I remember the last session I had, we were talking about, so there's 3 different classes of investments, right? Kind of big, high level stuff. We're looking at real estate, right? It's like multi-family properties or whatever, right? We're looking at buying businesses or creating businesses. And we're looking at money markets, right? Where it's like now we're trading stocks and bonds and ETFs and all that language that's there. So now we're looking at these three high level things. We can now start, when we're saving on a monthly basis, we can start deciding, okay, now I can monthly put in X amount for my business. Whether I want to start braiding hair, now I can put money on a regular basis to market that more, or rent a place, right? Or if I want to buy a business, start saving for that, right? Because most people only think about, I'm going to create a business, but you can buy one that's already set up, similar to buying a crib. So those of us here who have bought a crib, right? That process of going through getting accredited, getting an inspection, right? All that stuff, that same process, you could do it again now when you have some dollars to move on that direction, right? But if you have an eye for it, and you understand, this is the goal, and you can see it at a high level like this, you can avoid the rat race, stay away from it, right? Because the rat race now can also come from different avenues, right? From either our environment, they're like, yo, so Clarissa, you graduated, why you still riding your bike? You know, it's like those social cues, right? Or like every time we go to a family party, yo, where your kids at? Right? And kids are a blessing, right? But they can be expensive, right? They can be, so that's also a strategy, right? And figuring out, okay, what can I do strategically to make sure that I don't fall into a trap, right? Or fall into a place where now I'm spending more than I need to, or that I'm buying a yacht when I don't even go to the ocean, right? Like it's making those decisions, or not being flashy when I don't need to, right? Making those decisions for yourself that really make sense for you and are affordable for you, right? And the budget kind of sets you up in a place where you start aligning where you want to go with what you actually are doing. The big end goal, your assets will start making money for you automatically as well. So I think we were chopping it up a little bit about kind of home equity, right? So when you buy a home, now this thing is slowly growing in value. Rents will grow with time, right? Like, so there's different ways for you to kind of get money, and it'll slowly start making more money every X amount of years, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, whether money market, CDs, or buying a business or creating a business. This stuff with time will generate more income, and then the assets will now pay for your expenses. Of course, your expenses ain't flat. That's always changing, right? But your assets are machines to be making money in the long run. But then when it gets to the point where it's basically either paying for all your expenses, or most of them, or all of them, or whatever, now you're kind of in this financial liberated state that is like, now you're just living and doing things in a different way than what most people do. And there's a whole movement out there of FIRE, which is retire early. So it's people who get their bag, and from their work and their environment, they're throwing it at like money market accounts or like retirement accounts super aggressively. To then X amount of years, that stuff is always growing and compounding for them to get to this place in, like, let's say 30 years instead of the whole working till 65 or whatever, right? But that's one way in terms of the markets, and it's called the FIRE movement. You can look it up online. But there's also things through portfolio and real estate ownership, right? We're just talking about, do you mind if I share your, what's your name? Jamie. So Jamie bought a 2-family home, and we're already chopping it up. Okay, how am I going to get the next one, right? And so, because once you get into that place now as a multifamily homeowner, you could start not paying rent, right? And so that money you can put in your pocket, of course, is your investment, is your property. You got to take care of it, and expenses go through there. But also now you have this whole pocket of stuff that now you can kind of keep growing. So with the home, you could refinance, you could create a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, and with businesses, you can have business credit. Like, this is whole other world of this stuff to kind of always evolve and grow and make more money, right? Or kind of get yourself more comfortable. But in short, basically, there's levels to this, right? Budgeting, that's the breathing. That's the foundation. We're trying to be aligned with our money so we can be critical and then start making big moves. This is big idea stuff. And it's not like a one thing fixes all. It's something that, it's the habits that we make that then get us to these levels and getting to this. But it starts small. Whether you're investing $20, $50, $10, whatever it is, or if you're saving, that's just doing that act is already revolutionizing what we do on a regular basis. Because some people do not do this stuff, and those who do, those are the ones that get ahead. Because once you start managing 100, you can manage 1,000. When you manage 1,000, you can manage 10,000. You can manage a company. You could, like, budgeting might look like a cute little skill, but it's something that it's always going to be expanding and compounding. So now, this is going to be our last activity for today. There's a bunch of stickies there. If you don't mind, everybody get a sticky for yourself and a pen. I personally think this is cake once we have the opportunity, right? So when we're looking at our identities, so this is a quick example, and this is kind of what we're going to be doing. So I'm low income. I can make a lot out of a little. I've been doing that for years, right? It's cake, baby. Give me a few bucks. You going to put the wrong one in, right? I'm first generation. I can navigate any environment. We just talked about CDs, money markets. Yo, just let me know what this is, man. I'm going to chow it up. Because as first gens, like, this is what we do. You throw us into an environment and we swim. As whatever you decide to put on your sticky note as part of your identity, we're going to see how we can build power. So right under your name, you're going to put a part of your identity, whatever you decide to really see as power. And I'm going to let y'all do that now. Look at that identity, and we're going to pass our sticky notes around for all of us to kind of empower ourselves. And what's the power of that identity? But in short, these stickies are for you to take with you, for you to know, yo, I can do this. We've been prepared to do this. This is our power and the identities that we hold. This stuff is not complicated. But I wanted us to, if you did, it was challenging to empower yourself. Hopefully it was easier to empower others. Because when you start dissecting the identities, we can really see, we've been doing this. We've been doing this. And it can be challenging, but when we change our perspectives, that's when money's only a tool. We take it off of its pedestal. And when I was talking to Dwight earlier, we were talking about you need money to make money, period. Like, those are the rules of the game. But when you look at it in a way that it's not scarcity and ain't something you're scared of, like, just run at it, bro. And once you get a tap of it, like, because that's who we are. We make a lot out of a little, right? Like, that's the power. So once we get into water, baby, we swim like we never swam before, right? And like, and then we also are generous because we learn in community, grow in community. So when we have something, we also now like, I need to spread the word, bro. This is the game. And that's why, like, we always get the discounts when we go to certain places because we know, just because we this or we come from certain environments, we already know, like, like, it's special. And us in wealth is a different game.